Today we're going to discuss On the Identity of Places by Edward Ralph. Ralph describes identity as a perceived sameness and as a unity of idea. This applies to people and to places, and places is what we're going to discuss today. Now, Kevin Lynch describes the identity of a place as merely what makes it different from another place. Therefore, he can say that the identity of Taft Avenue is very much different from the identity of Katipunan Avenue. The identity of the Philippines is very much different from the identity of Thailand or of Singapore. As much as this description is very much apt, it's also simplifying the argument a little bit. Because while identity can be described by what makes a place different from others, it is a very simplistic description, and it only gives you an idea of what is different between places physically. However, there are many different ways to ascertain what is the identity of space. Now, Ian Nairn has a different idea on the identity of space, in that a space itself cannot give its identity to the people. It cannot define itself because it's not a living being. It doesn't have the brain to identify itself, to know what it is, and it doesn't have the brain to communicate it to people. Therefore, it is people with brains, who can give the space their identity. Through their experience, can give the space its meaning. Basically, what Ian Nairn is saying is that spaces are not defined by what makes them different, but spaces are also defined by what makes us different. Now, the first way to describe the identity of a place is obviously its physical attributes. Where is it located? Is there water? Is there earth? These are physical attributes, and these, in a way, are very much objective from person to person. The second way to describe places would be by its people. Now, without people, a place would just be a bunch of stone and a bunch of wood. But put people in that space, and suddenly it has context. What are the people doing to the space? Is this space a holy space where people are praying? Is this place a park where people are playing? So people inform the space as much as the physical attributes inform the space as well. The third component of the identity of a space is its meaning. Now, we've seen how people define the space, and we've seen how physical attributes define the space. Now, this is where the contention from man to man comes in, and meaning is subjective from man to man. Because I have my own experiences, I have my own knowledge, I have my own memories, and these will all be different from yours. And these are the tools I will be using in order to look at the space, to understand the space. And if I have different tools of understanding than you, then my perception will be different from yours. Now, there is a fourth dialectic of identity, one that is a little bit more hard to grasp than the others. A place may be raised to the ground. The people might walk away, so there will be no experience of the place. But there is one way to define a place beyond all of this, and that is the genus loci, or the space's spirit or personality. Now, this is a bit harder to explain than the others because there is no real way to describe what is the spirit of a place beyond what it looks like and what the people in it look like. But imagine this. At the end of the World War II, the city of Hiroshima was destroyed by an atom bomb. Now today, Hiroshima still stands as a city, but the memory of the city being torn down to the ground by one single bomb, and the millions of the lives lost in that one day, in that 1 second where the bomb hit the ground of the city, that will never be erased from the hearts and the minds of the people. That is genus loci. That is the place's spirit. That is the place's identity that cannot ever be erased. Now we know what exactly defines the identity of space, from the physical attributes to how people behave in the space, and to the meaning of the space to the individual, as well as genus loci. Now, how do these three components interplay with each other in order to create types of identities of place? So there's 7 types of identities of place. The first one is the individual place perspective, or a view of a place without reflection, a scientific observation. Of course, you will notice the physical attributes completely. You will also notice how people move within the space. But since there is no actual reflection, beyond that, that is all what is space. That is all of the definition of the space to this person. Basically, I'm standing in a room. This room has pictures in a room, and this room has a curtain. And that is the extent of the identity of this place. The second type of place identity is through sociality and community as regards of expressions of culture. Now, this is a more humane approach to looking at the identity of a space. And this is a way to look at it when you are inside the community that that space is a part of. Now, obviously, an outsider and an insider will have a different view of the space of the insider. And this is how the insider views his space, with context, with memories, with knowledge. That is what describes the second type of place identity. The third way to describe the type of place identity is through a behavioral insideness, or in a way, only an ambient environment. Now, this does require the subject or the viewer of the place to recognize the space as. Now, this does require the viewer of the space to view it with both some dejection but also some familiarity, so that he can effectively blur out what the space is to him and let it only act as a background to what his life is, rather than a place with an identity of its own. Now, the fourth is what we call incidental outsideness, function over meaning. What function over meaning means that, yes, there is a familiarity to the place. The place is viewed within the context of its needs, with the context of its physical space, with the context of its people. But like the first one, there is a certain detachment to the space, as the viewer only views it for its functions, not for its memories, not for its emotional context, not for its social context. Only what purpose can this place serve him? Like somebody in a mall or somebody in a taxi cab. He recognizes this place, he knows this place, but he is not comfortable within the space because it is only a space of function. The fifth is what we call the view of the objective outsider, the location, space, or activity and objects. So, yes, again, there is a familiarity, but there is a coldness about it, a logic in viewing the space, and you only see what you know without context. Again, there's a lamp, these are pictures, this is a curtain. I know this because I live here. But if I view it in this way, I only see a room with a lamp, some pictures, and a curtain. Now, the sixth type of place identity is not defined by one person, but by an entire community, as it is called mass identity or public consensus. Now, I am a resident of the city of Manila. Everybody in Manila knows Manila is dirty, Manila is polluted, Manila is overpopulated. And that is the general public consensus of the city of Manila. However, I know that there are places in Manila which are not polluted. I know that there are certain parts of Manila which are not dirty. I know there are certain parts of Manila which are not even overpopulated. Yes, but that is my personal view of the place versus the mass identity of the place. Now, this would seem superficial because people cannot unify enough in order to identify the entirety of a place as a whole, because so the mass identity given to a place by its people will always be superficial. The Philippines is polluted, Paris is beautiful, Singapore is orderly. These are hasty generalizations, but it is what society thinks these places are. So this is what defines mass identity. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. Click here to subscribe.